everyone, welcome back to All Things Academic. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my pathway through academia so that you get a little bit of background about me so that you can think about whether or not you want to follow my advice. And the other reason I wanted to record or to do this video was so that I know that sometimes it seems like the pathway from college to graduate school to being a professor seems like a very linear process. And I don't think that we share enough as professors. We don't share enough with our students and with our colleagues about how unlinear the process for most people really is. So today I wanted to talk about my pathway through academia to share a little insight into how I got to where I am today. My pathway was filled with lots of stress and confusion, but also lots of mentoring, support, great friends, and support of family. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the different points in my pathway that helped me get to where I am today. So I started out as a student in community college, and I really had no idea what I wanted to do. A lot of people ask me, they'll say, Dr. Lloyd, Professor Lloyd, did you always know that you wanted to be a professor? And I jokingly tell people that I just kept going to school until some school hired me full time, which is not necessarily true. The other thing is, a lot of people ask me, like, did you always know you wanted to be a professor? And the answer is no, I did not always know that I wanted to be a professor. I actually started out college really just trying to figure out what I was most passionate about. At one point, I was an art history major because I still really love art and I'm still really passionate about how art tells a story and communicates what's going on in historical context. And lots of different sociocultural factors play into who commissions art and the story that art is telling and what's going on at the time. So I still really love art. But I decided, or I realized that I didn't want art history to be the thing that I did for a career. So I changed my major to the next thing, the next class, as I'm taking all of these different classes as a student. The next thing that I was really excited about and I was most passionate about were two classes. The first class was Introduction to Psychology. I took it with a professor named Dr. Robbie. He would tell these really crazy and funny stories about his work in psychoanalytic psychology. And he would share anonymously, of course, some experiences that he had working with some of his clients to teach us about psychological principles. And then the second class that I really loved was adolescent psychology. When I was taking my general ed classes, I took a class with Dr. McPherson, and I really, really loved thinking about adolescent development, maybe because at the time I myself was an adolescent, but those two classes were the classes that really inspired me. And they were the next thing that I was most interested in. So when I transferred from community college to a four-year university, I, on a whim, switched my major from art history to psychology. I took lots of classes in my major that really reinforced that I was really excited and interested about the topic. And the other thing I did to help me learn about what I wanted to do in my path was I did a ton of internships. I had so many jobs. So many jobs. One, because I was a working college student, so I was working to put myself through school. And the other was that I just wanted tons of experience. So I tried to work in fields that would help me get the experience that I needed to move forward in my career. So I worked in childcare centers, I worked in residential treatment, I interned in a nursing home. I knew I was really excited about a helping profession and working with people in some capacity. So I did a ton of internships. And when I reached the end of my senior year, my advisor asked me, well, Erica, you've taken all these classes, you've done really well in psychology, what do you think you want to do next? And I said, I think I want to be a teacher, not knowing, really navigating my way through space, not really understanding what needed to go into being a teacher. Turns out you need a teaching license. So I realized, that wasn't a feasible or realistic plan at the time. And so my advisor recommended that I apply to our master's program at the time. And I didn't even know what was involved in going to graduate school. I didn't know what I needed to do. So in that one moment, it's a really great example of mentoring and someone stepping in to mentor me. My advisor said, if you want to go to graduate school, you need to get involved in a research lab. So that's a really important tip. If you are in if you're in science and you want to go on to graduate school, you have to get some research experience before you apply to graduate school, and sooner than later. So I ended up working in a research lab with a professor who was doing really interesting work. I've always had a natural curiosity just for learning. I love learning about different topics. I think the only class I didn't like was geology. That was the only class that I wasn't interested in. Of all the classes that I took, which were many, I don't know why, I just wasn't drawn to learning about sediment and different types of magma. So I went to work in this research lab where we were doing lots of different experiments, and from there I applied to the master's program in my program. And in that program, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go on for a PhD or if I just wanted to finish my master's degree and that would be the end of my advanced degrees. And once I got into graduate school, I realized this is really what I wanted to do. So while I enjoyed the experience of being an undergraduate student and giving back the information and telling professors, demonstrating my mastery and competency in this topic, I actually really enjoyed the generating of new knowledge that you get to do in graduate school. So once I got into a master's program, from there, the rest is history. And along the way, I got a master's degree. I applied to graduate programs, which took me all the way to Boston. So I'll tell that story in another video. But I moved to Boston for graduate school and got my PhD. After that, I went on the job market again. So academia is often applying for jobs that may take you many different places and potentially moving to different parts of the country or different parts of the world. And I moved from Boston to Arizona for a postdoc, and I really loved being a postdoc. I'll save the details of that experience for another video. But I really loved being a postdoc, and I loved interacting with other postdocs, and I really enjoyed the training experience and the opportunity to focus on research for 2 years before I went back on the job market and applied for faculty jobs for tenure track professor positions. And after that experience, I landed the number one job, the job that I really, really wanted, that fit. I will also save that I'll save that story for another video. But I moved from Arizona to Chicago to accept a tenure track professor position. And then it was the grind of tenure track life, which if many people don't know, what not getting tenure basically means is that your job has been eliminated. So at the end of 5, 6, or 7 years, it depends on your institution. Many institutions, if you are a pre-tenure professor, if you do not get tenure, your job is eliminated. Sometimes you have about a year to find other employment, but you cannot just continue on in that institution for the most part. And so I did go through that grueling process of tenure and became a tenured professor in my university and stayed there for about a year before we migrated. My family decided to migrate back to the West Coast, AKA the Best Coast, which is where I'm currently at. And I am currently a tenured professor at my current institution. And so it's been a really long, arduous journey that honestly, I think if someone had told me that would be the journey when I was about to graduate from undergrad, that I would have to go to school all of these years and go and move to many parts of the country. I think if someone told me at the time, I might not have pursued that path. But now that I look back, I actually really appreciate the growing and learning and the experiences that I had along the way and all of the really amazing people that I met and the growing that I myself did. I like to say that I'm one of those people who I was somewhat of a young professor, so I had a very linear path in terms of going from community college to undergrad and then graduate school. I finished my master's and PhD in about 6 years, and then a 2-year postdoc, and then I became a professor. So I was pretty young when I finished, and I grew in the academy. I grew as a young adult. and I grew as a professional and as an academic. So I'm happy that I can share these experiences with you all as you think about your pathway through academia. And I hope that I have said something that inspires you along your journey. One piece of advice I would offer as you're thinking about an academic lifestyle is that it is a pretty hectic schedule of research, teaching, and service. And service encompasses many things: reviewing for journals, mentoring students both at my university and at other universities, mentoring other people in the field, serving on boards of professional organizations, volunteering in the community. Those three components of an academic job are not necessarily balanced. So it can be a pretty hectic lifestyle, but it can also be really rewarding and allow you to do the things that you're really excited about. So for me, I have been able to do the things that I'm most excited about, which is science. I love writing. I love mentoring students. I also love traveling. So I've been able to fold many things that I love doing into my current position. One thing I will say about this path is that it has certainly been filled with lots of uncertainty. My path has been filled with lots of uncertainty. And one thing that's really great about these experiences is that the more uncertainty you experience, the better able you are to deal with it and to handle it. So the more experiences you have that introduce the uncertainty. So I was very uncertain when I graduated from undergrad. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I was very uncertain when I graduated from my master's program, and I didn't know if I was going to get into a PhD program. At every stage, I was very uncertain when I graduated from my postdoc, and I didn't know if I was going to get a faculty job. But the nice thing about going through those experiences is that the more times you are able to confront the uncertainty of those experiences, the better able you are to cope with it as you move forward. So there's a really quick, really brief synopsis of my story. I hope that it helps you understand the pathway a little bit. So this is my pathway. It's certainly not the only pathway. It's just one of many stories. I hope that I've said something that will help you along your own path, depending on what stage of the journey that you're at, whether you're a graduate student or a postdoc or a faculty member thinking about changing institutions. I hope that I've said something that can help you think about your journey and make the best decision for you as you continue on this path. If you found value in this content and you'd like to help my channel out, give me a thumbs up so that more people can find their way to this channel as it starts to grow. And if you'd like to see more videos that I post in the future, hit that notification bell and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.